All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to track the absolute miraculous journey of an infant over their very first year. We'll be using these incredibly clean, realistic medical animations to really break down four critical pillars of human growth: physical, motor, language, and social development. Because honestly, when you see it all laid out in sequence, the timeline of human growth is just astounding.
So I want you to think about this for a second. Just how much does a human being actually learn and develop in their first 365 days? I mean, it's so easy to look at a baby and just see, well, a baby, right? But the sheer scale of transformation, going from a completely dependent newborn to a walking, talking, highly interactive toddler, is literally one of the most dynamic periods in the entire human lifespan. Understanding this progression is absolutely crucial. It reveals the step-by-step building blocks of our biology and our psychology.
Section 1. The newborn stage, 0 to 1 month. In this very first month of life, the infant is essentially operating purely on fundamental survival instincts. Now, you might actually be surprised by this number, 14 to 17. That's a staggering amount of hours a newborn sleeps every single day. And while it might look like this quiet, totally passive period to us, this sleep is highly active on a biological level. Massive foundational brain development and physical growth are taking place during those 14 to 17 hours. But what happens when they're actually awake? Well, their world is incredibly close-knit. A newborn can really only focus on faces that are just 20 to 30 centimeters away. If you think about that distance, it's exactly the distance from a baby resting in someone's arms to that person's face. Their entire visual world is perfectly optimized for connection with their caregiver, naturally filtering out all that distracting background noise of, a brand new environment. And this brilliantly illustrates the built-in survival mechanisms that we humans are born with. Notice these three distinct reflexes. You've got the strong sucking and rooting reflexes, which are absolutely essential for feeding. Then there's the instinctive grasp. If you just place a finger in their palm, they'll hold on tight. And they also have the ability to turn their head toward a sound, which is them beginning to orient themselves in space. Remember, these aren't learned behaviors. They are involuntary physical actions wired directly into their nervous system. Section 2. 2 to 6 months, expanding horizons. We transition away from the bassinet and get down onto the playmat as the baby really wakes up to the world. By 2 to 3 months, the physical leaps are just highly noticeable. During tummy time, the infant can now actually lift their head and chest, building up that critical core and neck strength. They're opening and closing their hands, finally abandoning that constant newborn fist. But honestly, perhaps the most rewarding changes are social and cognitive. They start tracking moving objects with their eyes, and they begin to actually engage with you, giving you those first social smiles, cooing, and making distinct vowel sounds to communicate. Fast forward just a few weeks to the 4 to 6 month mark, and these rapid advancements just keep rolling. Remember that neck and core strength we just talked about? Well, it now allows the baby to roll over and sit up with some support. They aren't just staring at objects anymore either. They are actively reaching and grasping for toys. Vocally, those little coos turn into full-bellied laughs and babbling. And cognitively, their memory is really sharpening. They can now distinctly recognize familiar faces all the way across a room. Section 3. 7 to 9 months, gaining agency. Okay, this is a thrilling phase. The baby is no longer a stationary observer. They are a highly mobile explorer. During this window, the infant can now sit entirely without support. They figure out how to coordinate their limbs to crawl, which grants them independent movement for the very first time. Their manual dexterity improves so much that they can smoothly transfer objects from one hand to the other. And on the cognitive and language front, they actually recognize and respond to their own name, plus they now actively understand object permanence, which is exactly why playing games like peekaboo suddenly becomes endlessly entertaining for them. This perfectly contrasts where we started with where we are now. Think back to that newborn stage. Entirely involuntary survival reflexes, like sucking and rooting. Now, compare that to the emergence of a highly intentional, incredibly precise fine motor skill, the pincer grasp. Using just the thumb and forefinger to pick up an item requires an immense amount of neural development and physical coordination. I mean, it's a night and day difference in less than a year.
Section 4, 10 to 12 months, the final stretch. At this point, the baby is shifting from floor-level crawling and gearing up for major, vertical independence. The gross motor progression here is just phenomenal. An infant at this stage uses their newly strengthened legs and arms to pull themselves all the way up to a standing position. From there, they begin what pediatric experts call cruising, shuffling sideways while holding onto furniture for balance. And for some infants, this whole process culminates in taking those monumental, totally wobbly first independent steps right before their first birthday.
But hey, it's not just about walking. The simultaneous fine motor, language, and social leaps are equally impressive. They're waving bye-bye, which is a really complex social gesture. They are mastering the coordination required to drink from a cup. They're successfully using that pincer grasp we mentioned to easily pick up small objects. And super thrillingly for parents, they transition from that random babbling to saying mama and dada with clear, deliberate meaning. Section 5, the Growth Timeline Summary. Let's just step back for a moment and look at the big picture of infant development to really appreciate this miraculous 12-month journey.
I want you to follow this timeline with me. Notice how every single skill serves as the foundation for the next. It begins with gaining basic head control at birth. By 3 months, that control extends down to the core for rolling and early social smiling. By 6 months, that strength allows for sitting, while the voice develops into babbling. At 9 months, they're crawling and mastering their environment. And finally, at 12 months, all of that core strength, balance, and neurological growth results in standing and walking. It is just a perfectly sequenced cascade of human development.
So, when we picture a healthy, playing 1-year-old toddler, we're actually looking at the successful integration of all these developmental pillars. Let's visually check them off based on what we've explored today. Gross motor skills, that's getting up and moving. Fine motor skills, grasping and manipulating objects. Language, communicating needs and affection. Social skills, connecting with others. All of these combine to equal overall healthy growth. Now, the absolutely crucial point to take away from this is this reassuring message directly from our source material. What we've reviewed today is a roadmap, but it is so important to remember that every single child is unique and develops at their own individual pace. Some walk early, some talk early. These milestones are guidelines, which is exactly why regular health checkups are so important to monitor that healthy individual development. I'll leave you with this final thought today. Knowing the sheer, staggering volume of neurological, physical, and social development that occurs in just 12 short months, what hidden marvels of growth will you notice the next time you see a 1-year-old playing on the floor? Because honestly, once you understand the milestones, you never look at a baby's first steps or that very first intentional smile exactly the same way ever again.